Hey, this is JC here at JC's Comics and More, your pop culture superstore at 6725 West Central Avenue. That's Toledo, Ohio. 43617-419-531-6097. Instagram at JC's Comics and More, www.jcscomicsmore.com, and JC's Comics More at hotmail.com. Got a special guest in the shop today, and you are...
Dr. Bruce Solheim. They call me Dr. Bruce.
Dr. Bruce, welcome, Dr. Bruce. And you're coming all the way from...
I'm coming from Glendora, California, Southern California, near Pasadena.
Came all the way from warm California to come to cold Ohio.
Exactly, yeah.
And what do you... so you got something in your hand there. What is this?
Yeah, well, it's a comic book that I just published. I'm a small independent comic book publisher. It's called SNARC. It actually started as a comic strip in 1982 in Butte, Montana. I started a comic book or comic strip for the Montana Technocrat newspaper, and then I failed engineering school. Later became a historian. But anyway, that's a long story. But 37 years in the making. Here it is. It came out, and I was able to get Gary Dumm from Cleveland to do the artwork. We've been working together on a couple other projects.
And who, Gary? What might they know Gary from?
Yeah, Gary was the principal artist for Harvey Pekar of American Splendor fame. So he's been around since the early 70s, and along with Robert Crumb and other, probably more famous guys. But he's my primary artist, or he is the artist of this one.
So you certainly got somebody that certainly knows what he's doing.
He does know what he's doing, and I've been in and out of comics for a long time, so this is the first time I've published something. It's a lifelong dream. I've published 8 books, mostly history books, but I'm most excited about this comic book. It's just like, since I made my own comics when I was like 13, and
yeah,
now
me too.
Finally publishing something. So, and it's quite a process, but it's well worth it. I get to meet nice people like yourself, and talk to them about comics and try to get the word out. So it's snarkcomic.com, so 2 C's there. SNARC, SNARC, and then comic, COMIC.com.
Now, what's the other company?
The name of the company is Boots to Books, and it's really just me.
Okay.
I'm a disabled American veteran, so we have a little...
Well, thanks for everything that you did.
So we got a little thing there, service disabled, veteran owned. So.
Now I see the dedication. Now that's to somebody that you knew, or just
Yeah, a dear friend of mine who passed away. He died about 3 years ago, and I'm also very much into the paranormal and stuff. So, and I see you're wearing some stuff there that might remind me of that. And so I teach history at college. That's how I'm Dr. Bruce.
Now, which college?
Citrus College in Southern California.
Okay.
And I also teach a paranormal history class as well there. So one of the few in the nation college classes on the paranormal.
Wow, that has to be pretty exciting.
It is. So we include, UFOs and aliens to ghosts and hauntings. And
man.
So it's a lot of fun. It's what I've always wanted to do, comic books and paranormal stuff, UFO stuff since I was younger, and now I'm finally able to do it. At age 61, if you can believe that. So
now the going back to the dedication, is that somebody you knew from the service, or
no? He's a childhood friend, and actually he started me on this whole paranormal thing. I'd had paranormal things happen to me since I was 4 years old, but I was afraid to tell anybody.
Okay,
and they just kept happening. I'm kind of a lightning rod for that. So. He died 3 years ago and came to me in a vision probably a month after he died, and told me now it's time to start telling your stories. So I've now published 3 paranormal books, and now I got my UFO alien comic, and so it's just all these stories are coming out, and so that's Gene Thorkelson. He's also a Norwegian American.
Okay, now where would somebody, if they're interested in your paranormal books, where would they find them, and where do they call it?
Amazon. Yeah, Amazon. They're Timeless, the Timeless series. Timeless Deja Vu is the second one, and then Timeless Trinity, which is going to come out in 2 months.
Now, what's the cost on those?
Those are, I think they're like $12.95.
$12.95. Okay.
Yeah, they're full books, and the artwork they're illustrated by Gary Dumm. Now, not fully illustrated.
Okay, but like, sort of spot illustrations.
Yeah, and the covers. So.
Now, something that you said Amazon. Now, is there a website they can go to also?
Yeah, they can go to my name, brucesolheim.com.
Could you spell that for us?
Yeah, BruceOlavsolheim.com. BruceOlavsolheim.com. All my projects and both previous academic stuff and my new stuff. are found there. So.
Okay. And do you have a presence on Facebook also with your products?
They could go to SNARC Comic. I think it's at SNARC Comic or whatever it is.
Okay.
Facebook. If you look up SNARC Comic, you'll find it everywhere.
Okay. And what about Instagram or anything else?
Yeah, I think it's SNARC Comic as well.
Okay. Anything on YouTube at all?
I don't have a YouTube channel dedicated
yet,
so I want to do that in the future.
Okay.
So.
Well, certainly, make sure you go to the my YouTube channel if you're on there.
I'll connect everything.
You'll connect it everything. Liking everything, so everybody can get the word out.
Sure.
Now, this your book here, SNARC, what's your plans with this as far as publishing schedule, or what's your long range plans?
Well, I'm going to see what the interest level is. This is my dream come true. I have 15 more stories written, so it's quite a. I mean, it can go on for as long as we want it to, as long as there's interest. Undecided whether we're going to do regular comic book format or maybe then switch to graphic novel. Not sure yet.
Okay.
We'll see how this goes, but I had 5,000 of these things printed up.
Okay. So. Now, what's the premise of the book?
The premise is that, and it comes from this character I developed 37 years ago. He's half alien, half human. He comes to Earth with a mission to help prepare us for colonization. And so it's not the good aliens. These are some of the bad ones. And but he's half human. So he comes here and he finds out, well, he really likes us. And he doesn't want to do that mission. But if he doesn't complete the mission, his people on the planet Maron will not survive. So he's got to figure out a way to keep us from being enslaved, but also help the other half of him. So there's this tension built in. And then he's got this cosmic staff here. He's kind of the comic relief, because there's a mixture of science fiction and humor and history. So, for instance, he'll go to different locations. Like he goes to Area 51 and meets some people who don't know that he's an alien. They just think he's an odd person.
Just dressed up like a weirdo.
Yeah. And then they find out, we've actually did meet an alien. So he goes to different places. He goes to, let's see, where else did he go? He goes to the border. Okay. So it's not political, but it is topical. So, for instance, he goes to the border and he says, I wonder if this fence is meant to keep people in or keep them out. So it's kind of like an innocent abroad. He doesn't know exactly what's going on. And his cosmic staff is kind of the comic relief.
Now, does the cosmic staff have a name?
Not yet.
Okay.
He does, but I'm not going to reveal it.
Okay, not going to reveal it, so you got to make people...
That'll come later, He's got quite a backstory, and they are closely connected, although they bicker like an old married couple.
Okay. So. Well, so he's torn between both his like you said, his
alien world and his... We don't know his origins. Yeah, we know he's half human and half alien, but we don't know exactly how that happened, which will come in future stories.
Now, you said that started off as a newspaper strip. Now, did you incorporate when it was initially came out in a newspaper strip to this here? Did you make changes, or is it pretty much the same as it was?
It's pretty much the same character. I've obviously developed it a lot more than I could in a comic book, but it's essentially the same. There wasn't a cosmic staff in the first iteration.
Okay,
but it was very popular at Montana Tech in Butte. Everybody loved it. And that's because I was spending my time doing that. I didn't finish engineering school.
Your studies. See, those damn comic books. See, Mom was right.
The comic books helped me with. That's how I learned how to read.
Yeah, well, myself too.
I know so many people in comics that's what saved you. What saved me.
Well, you read them because you wanted to, and you wanted to you start off maybe just as sort of picture books, and then you're like, I want to know what they're saying, and you read them again, not because you had to, but because you wanted to.
Yeah. So and I've had a lot of fun working with Gary. Gary's just, he is like a go-to kind of comic book guy, and he's been around since, like I said, the early '70s, and I've learned a lot about sequential art, and I had a good sense of it. So like when I'll give him, I'm a frustrated comic book artist myself, so I'll give him rough sketches. And then he, develops it as nicely as he does.
Nice.
So this, like the opening story here, is actually from the original strip, where he crash lands in Hollywood, where of course he blends right in.
Right.
Nobody thinks any different.
Yeah. They're just gonna think he's somebody in front of them.
And also, there's a backstory here where A trickster a couple of years ago went up to the Hollywood sign and made the O's into E's, so it said Hollyweed.
I never heard that. That actually happened?
Yeah, so I instead of kind of in a Forrest Gump fashion, I said he's the one responsible because he crashed through the sign.
There you go.
Of poor driving skills.
Now, how long did the strip run in its
it was
as a newspaper?
Only 5 issues. I can't remember if it was a monthly, whatever it was. I was only there one semester.
Okay.
So there's 5 of them, and I preserved all of them, so I still have them. And
still got some copies left.
Yeah.
Nice.
And my son, he's one of my sons that lives here in Ohio. He has a 3D printer. He's an engineer, and he has made the cosmic staff.
Okay, so he became the engineer.
Yes, my son became the engineer. Yeah. One of my 3 sons became an engineer, so he fulfilled that, which would have made my dad very happy. That's what he wanted me to do. But, so it's a lifelong dream come true, and I had so much fun working with this, and combining there's historical stories here, like he goes to Devil's Tower.
Okay.
And then he encounters a Native American who's tied in to some Native American history of the tower. So it ties a lot of stuff together, social issues, but it's not preachy, it's not political in any way. It's through the eyes of an alien.
It just tells a good story without again, trying to push. It seems like so many.
I don't want to push anything on anybody, other than the fact that we ought to think about the fact that even though this is fictional, the fact that there is life other than.
Well, there has to be, right? I mean, we can't be so ignorant to think that we're it. In the great cosmic scheme of things, that that we're the be all end all.
Yeah. So I'm going to be selling these. You can get them. You go to my website, brucesolheim.com. You can buy them there, or snarkcomic.com.
Okay. Well, we certainly hope to sell them in here also. If if some of my customers certainly have interest, certainly let me know, because I certainly like to support good projects, and I'm looking forward to sitting down and reading this one, and hopefully enjoying it, and can't wait to have the next issue myself. Now, you said at age 4 that you had
my first paranormal experience was an angelic experience, a healing experience in northern Norway, on an island 200 miles above the Arctic Circle.
Okay.
And my mother told me it was my guardian angel, who has been with me, ever since. And I've had paranormal adventures ever since, ghosts. And, I remember going to an open casket funeral when I was a kid, and the person in the casket spoke to me. And I looked at my mom, and my mom was very psychic, so I looked over to her, and she just smiled at me.
Nice.
So we had this knowing kind of thing, and we'd read each other's cards, and until my dad told us to stop it because he was a skeptic, And skeptics, they just say stop. I don't.
Right.
When they encounter the fact that it could be true, that's it.
It's just too scary for them.
They're going to check out. It was too scary for my dad. So he was a brave man in every other respect, but that was it. So I think it comes down through the bloodlines through my mom, and her mother, who was a healer. So I think that's probably where it came from. So I've kind of taken an academic slant on it with these books, but also personal, because I believe history is all made personally. I mean, our history is the history of individual people like you and I, people working, doing what we do. And so that's my approach in history. So that's my approach with the paranormal, too, in my books, is just relaying the things that have happened to me, and hopefully it'll open other people up to experiences they've had and learn not to fear these things.
Okay.
And instead try to understand and support scientists like Dr. Dean Radin at the IONS, which is in Petaluma, California, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which was started by Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut who had an experience in space.
Okay.
And so I work with him, and I belong to the Parapsychological Association. I belong to a lot of different organizations that are promoting research into UFOs, aliens, paranormal stuff. So I love it. And like I said, I teach the class, and it's full every time. You got young people, older people. They go there because they want a safe place to talk about their experiences.
Well, it certainly seems like it's just fascinating classes.
Endlessly fascinating. This will take long after I retire from Citrus College. I'll be doing this stuff.
I remember as a kid, like UFOs, Gold Key Comics would put out their UFO comics in the '60s, and my dad would always buy them for me, and I was always just fascinated by the stories and everything, and stuff that's unexplained, and just talking about just the different items and stuff.
And I think the thing that ties all these interests together is that I believe, because I study quantum physics too is that because I still love science, even though I didn't become an engineer, I love science and math. But that the quantum world, the alien world, and the paranormal or spirit world are all really the same. They're operating in the same realm.
So the same plane.
Yeah, that's what I believe to be true. And there's scientists and others who also believe, including most of the members of IONS and an organization called FREE, which has also Dean Radin's involved with and Edgar Mitchell was involved with. So they pretty much think the same thing. Nobody knows for sure, but it seems to be pointing in that direction. So, and there's been a lot of interesting things lately in that realm, with the Tic Tac video being released. And I've met those.
What's the Tic Tac video?
The Tic Tac video is the USS Nimitz pilots who encountered very fast-moving UFOs. The military calls them unmanned. No, not unmanned. They call them unidentified aerial vehicles. I think is what they call them, and they are unidentified aerial phenomena. I think that's what they call them. Anyway, they encountered these things. They had gun sight video of their encounters. It's now been released since 2017.
I wonder if that's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on. You can find it if you look.
I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, and it's definitive proof that these things are definitely beyond our capabilities or anybody's capabilities. You have acceleration to 5,000 miles an hour and 90-degree turns,
wow.
And just with no apparent flight surfaces or method of propulsion. And I've actually met the Nimitz guys at a conference at UFO MegaCon in Laughlin, Nevada. And those guys, they have like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder from everything that they encountered.
Wow. And
also not being able to talk about it.
Well, yeah, so,
but now they're being vindicated because all the stuff has come out because of people like, what's his name for To the Stars Academy, the band guy from San Diego, Blink 182 or whatever.
Okay.
Tom DeLonge.
Okay.
Yeah, him and the former head of the government program, which continues long after Project Blue Book shut down. They've been investigating this stuff. Lou Elizondo, so he's out there on YouTube too, and he's part of of Tom DeLonge's group, the To the Stars Academy, and they have a lot of information on this stuff, and they're investigating. They had a show last year. I can't remember what it was called, but anyway, so so there's a lot of information out there that people can find, and you can see that it's becoming. There's a disclosure going on. Some of it I think is metered, meaning that just a little bit comes out at a time. But you can go as far as you want with it, and like I'm going to be a guest speaker at the one of the biggest UFO conferences in May of this year. It's the Contact in the Desert, which is in Southern California. Actually, it's out in near Palm Springs, and so I'm going to be a speaker there, and I'll have comics there,
nice.
And I'll have my timeless books there, and I'll be talking about how I did some research. So my academic side, I did research on the people who have been abducted or claimed to have been abducted. They belong to an organization called CERO, which is Close Encounter Research Organization. So I did a scientific poll of all the members of CERO using the VA's gold standard for PTSD diagnosis. So I just adapted it for alien abduction.
Okay.
And it came out that I think it was 57% of the people who claim to have been abducted are actually suffering from PTSD, which would indicate that they have been traumatized. And the questions were such that they were related to their abduction, so it's not traumatized from something else. And they don't know what the indicators are, so there's certain criterion within the poll that where you can't fake it. You can't fake PTSD, especially not with this
the test.
Yeah, this test. So yeah, about 57%, which is greater than Vietnam has about 30% PTSD from that horrible war. About 20%.
Yeah, you think that would be much higher with what those guys saw and just.
Yeah, it's underreported. That's just the people
a lot of those guys may not just want to come out and just talk about it.
I think it's probably much higher than
just
that.
Keep it just locked up.
And I also polled members in France too. So they have an organization in France. So the French tend to be more affected than us for some reason. Men are more affected than women, which is interesting. So a lot of interesting data will come out. I'm going to do a workshop at Contact in the Desert when I do my presentation there.
Now, is that a yearly thing, or is that?
Yeah, it's a yearly thing out there in. It's further than Palm Springs. It's Palm Desert or whatever.
Okay. And the other convention that you talked about, is that a yearly convention also? What? No, you said Nevada.
The MegaCon in Laughlin. That's I just forgot when it is. I think it's earlier in the year, but it's in Laughlin, Nevada. So there's a number of these UFO conferences, and that I'll probably be making the rounds at.
The people could certainly look up that information online.
Yeah, and it's fascinating stuff. It can become an obsession. If you
it's certainly really something. Like I said, myself reading that stuff, always just fascinated with it.
Yeah.
Watch stuff on TV. Obviously, there was something on. God, I don't know what the Travel Channel or something. Just the other day, I caught about Yetis and Bigfoot, that they're out, trying to track them down, and of course it continued into the next episode, which I might see. But they're at night and they had infrared, and there was something watching them, and it's like, I want to know more about this, that again, it's just the unknown. That I think it's your desire, that you get that, you want to know. It's just, it's fascinating that you're not just staying and saying, well, it's not important. It's like, no, I want to know more about that.
Yeah, and there's theories about Bigfoot too. I had friends that went to a conference at the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and it's kind of a mixture of UFO and Native American stuff. And of course, the Native Americans have been into this for a lot longer than we have. And visitors from the stars and stuff. And they had when my friends were there were a number of Bigfoot sightings. Some people believe that it's tied into the paranormal, that somehow Bigfoot. Why can't you ever find these things? Well, what if they are interdimensional beings? Nobody knows for sure, and that could help explain it. So it's all seems to be. That's they call that part of the paranormal the cryptids. The kind of animal or half animal type creatures that inhabit that kind of spirit world. So,
well, in that program, they were talking about how they had recorded some sounds. They think the sounds of a possible Bigfoot Yeti, and that the frequency that they use is below our capacity to hear.
Possibly.
It's just like tigers, I guess, have a sort of a growl or something that you feel it. You don't so much hear it; you feel it.
Yeah.
And thinking, it might be the same way. Yeah. And it's just the same way as far as what we see. Maybe there's stuff that's just not within our ultra vision, or that's there.
And then if you look at quantum physics, this idea that the world that we see around us is created by ourselves, so we can live in it and be comfortable. Yeah. But whenever you venture outside of it, which, if you got the whole universe and multi-dimensions and stuff, there's a lot more to it. And children kind of have that intuition, and a lot of your viewers, when they're younger, they had invisible friends and saw all kinds of stuff, but then they're taught, no, that's not, you can't say that. If you're going to go to school, you can't talk about that stuff. Your invisible friend's not real, so then society just kind of beats you down.
Well, and you believe there's not real. Well, as a child, you get that innocence going on, and
right, because you see the world probably more naturally than we do as adults, unless, of course, a lot of me and my friends always kind of just said, okay, well, I'll do whatever society tells me, but I'm going to hang on to some of this stuff too.
Right.
So that I think I was kind of lucky, and my mom helped with that because she understood that there was more than what we visibly most people see. So.
Now, you mentioned Norway. You grew up in Norway, born in Norway?
My parents are from northern Norway. My brother and I were born in Seattle.
Okay.
But we grew up with both cultures, and I've been back there maybe 12, 15 times.
That's certainly be fascinating.
Yeah.
I know I've spent some time over in Europe visiting friends and stuff, been in the Netherlands and Belgium, and spent some time in Stockholm, which is just just outstanding. And while I was in the Navy, I spent 2 years up in Keflavik, Iceland.
Thank you for your service.
It was the job I did, and I spent the rest of my enlistment on the USS Eisenhower. So it's interesting that you mentioned the Nimitz and stuff. And there's certainly stuff.
My dad was a Navy guy, Norwegian Navy, but yeah.
Certainly stuff that certainly saw on the ship that I can kind of talk about, because it doesn't probably matter at this time. But there's stuff that on the ship. It's like, okay, this is need to know basis, and if people aren't on the ship, they don't need to know, and so you keep that quiet. And I think there's a lot of people just don't realize sometimes with the military, because they want to know if we're on maneuvers or something, where are they at. It's like, well, do you need to know? No, you don't need to know. It's something that you're taught in the military.
Yeah.
That
you're taught to keep secrets.
Keep secrets. Yeah.
And and of course, it's punishable by some very severe punishments. It's
the USMJ or I can't remember what exactly.
UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you sign up, you're defending freedom for us, but you yourself do not have freedom.
Right.
Which is kind of odd when you think about it. But that's, you get to wear the uniform. And,
yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, I remember when we were down in Antigua doing some exercises down there, that went on the beach. We had a couple of days off for Liberty and got sunburned really, really bad. And I still did my job. I was a dispersing clerk. I handled pay records and cashier and stuff. And I was probably as red as the red on that there. And it was something I went in. I didn't go down to sick bay, because if I went down to sick bay, I would get written up for just damaging government property.
Right, right.
Because people, they're like, what? And it's like, yeah, you're government property.
You belong to the government, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have a family, they said what would they always say, that if the military wanted you to have a family, they would have issued.
It would have issued, yeah, exactly.
So
you know what
you
I'm
can't have any
about.
family problems.
Yeah.
Don't mention any family problems.
But you mentioned books also. What books have you written?
Well, history books. My first book was my doctoral dissertation called The Nordic Nexus, and my specialty was foreign policy. So it was how the 5 Nordic nations, that's Norway and Sweden and Denmark and Iceland and Finland.
So Iceland was part of it too.
Yeah, they're part of the Nordic.
I never knew that.
Yeah, they're part of the Nordic nations. Scandinavian is just Denmark, Sweden, and Norway.
Wow, I spent 2 years up in Iceland. Never knew they were part of the Nordic.
Yeah, the Nordic region.
Nation.
So,
wow.
Yeah, so each one of them had a separate way of dealing with the superpowers. Everything from NATO membership to being neutral, like Finland was. So that kind of helped keep the Russians and the Americans from encroaching on them. Because the high north is a very valuable place.
Yes.
It's kind of a behind the scenes thing going on now, because there's so many other places that are taking the headlines. But the Russians are making a lot of moves into northern Norway, and it's pretty scary actually. But we're not. It's not in the media. People don't know about it unless you're a Nordic scholar. You don't really know much about it. But anyway, that's what that book was about. A couple of women's leadership books. I was interested in why the Scandinavians have had prime ministers that are women, and why half of their political leaders are women, and why are we kind of behind, and what difference does it make, that kind of stuff. So just those kind of things. Vietnam War book, inspired by my that I use for my Vietnam War course that I teach, inspired by my brother's service in Vietnam. He's a disabled vet.
I'm glad he came back.
He made it back, but he's not the same guy that he was.
Well, again, that was, out of all the wars I think that we were involved in, that was certainly one of the worst.
Psychologically,
and it's one of those things when people, thank me for my service. I certainly thank them, but I tell them it's like, I went in knowing what I did. I volunteered, so it's like the people you need to thank are the like the Vietnam vets that went there, that were drafted, that went there against their will. Those are the guys you really need to thank.
They still did their job.
They still did their job.
They were brave, and they came back and were treated like crap.
Yeah,
so
that's awful. That was just horrific. Just how the public, because they were doing their job. It's not like they weren't the ones making the decisions. It's it's Washington and the military leaders. They were just they're being here's what you do. You're going to take that hill. Yeah. You take that hill, and okay, well, you're going to give that hill back up. Okay, and then
it was just, it didn't make sense.
And then the Viet Cong take the hill back. Well, you got to take that hill again. Bodies being used in this this great great game that they were just just using these guys as just cannon fodder and not respecting them. Yeah. Now your books, are they currently in print or available?
Yeah, all of them are. Well, the 2 first ones were never paperback. They were just hardcover. So they're on everything. If you look up Bruce Solheim on Amazon, you'll find all my books there. Cool. Or brucesolheim.com. I have all of them kind of in a row on one page connected to Amazon or wherever they're available. And let's see what else. I wrote a history anti-textbook because I was so sick and tired of the textbooks that were made to use for our history classes that we teach. So I decided I'm going to write my own, and that's really how I got.